Hi. So yes, we are back with our second panel, the last panel for the day. These are some of the business owners who've been, someone has started their own business, someone is taking forward the legacy, but fairly well established in terms of the brand and the product category they are in. Our intent and idea is also to listen from the same fraternity, what goes into a businessman's mind, because at the end of the day, we as professionals, no matter how hard we try, but it's their money, right? So when someone puts their own money, what goes in their mind, what thought process drives them, what makes something tick, what makes them take some decision. So the intent of this panel discussion would be to catch up on that front and see what they think and how they act on different situations. Firstly, I would like to thank all of you. Really humbling for me to be sitting across with these four gentlemen who are way ahead of what I am trying to achieve probably for my company. So thank you. So first question to Mr. Pradeep, sir. I'm just a homework guy, so I'll take note from my note. So how can family businesses stay true to their founding values, right? While you're still evolving to meet the expectation of a younger generation. In your case also, the next generation is coming in and they have started actively playing role. So how do you see this transition happening? How do you ensure that this value transition happens?
Value is such a thing which is ingrained in an organization. It is not an individual, it is not my value. It is an organizational value, and this creation of a culture and a value, it takes a long time, and it has to be driven by the CEO of the company. So for me personally, I belong to a professional background, so I worked for 3 multinational companies before I ventured on my own and set up this company, which started as a very small trading firm and then got into joint venture, branding, manufacturing. So I've seen a professional side, then getting into a business. So I've seen both. So I always believed that there is the best of both which can work. So I have tried to bring in a professional culture in the organization by actually employing good professionals, number one, and working like a CEO, not working like an owner of the company. And the values have to be imbibed time and again. It is not that you go one fine day and tell your senior management team or down the line to your workers that safety is very important, or compliance of law is very important, or pollution management is very important. Those are the kind of values. But they have to be over a period of time, because people keep forgetting what you've taught them. So it is something which is a hard grind and a drive which has to go through. So like the next generation is the next point that you raised. The next generation has been working now for the last 15 years. So if he is not a part of that culture of mine, he's not going to be around. So he is part of that same culture. So I'm sure he's going to carry forward that culture. And if he doesn't, he'll be thrown out. Believe me, ownership and management, I strongly believe, are divorced. It is not necessary that you are the owner of a company and you will be respected as the CEO of the company. No. I've seen a lot of owners who are not respected as CEOs, and they'll be thrown out or they'll not be successful. So that's my point.
Thank you, sir. Point well taken. Someone to say, if my son doesn't follow the value on which this organization is built, he might be thrown out of the system. I'm not sure if Akshay is around and listening to this, but Akshay, that's a message for you, probably. Mr. Reddy.
So, as a co-founder, my co-founder is also here present. We're a first-generation entrepreneur, and for us, in fact, we started in '94, and when you said values and stuff like that, so we kind of defined what is it that we would stand for. In fact, we were told that you couldn't really, '94 was a different environment altogether. We had just come out of license Raj and stuff like that. And the fact that you could not, we wanted to do the business, we wanted to be honest about what we did, we wanted to pay our taxes, whether it was excise, sales tax, and we were told it won't work. And just like Pradeep just mentioned, is that this is something that takes years to build upon, and as long as you reflect that as part of your organization's DNA, these are the non-negotiable, the core values you have to define them, whether it's honesty in terms of the way you deal with your business and your people, and about the manner in which you deal with the market with your product, that you will never cheat. You will not shortchange a customer. I think this is built over a period of time, and people below you, I think, just emulate that, and they kind of understand that that's the part of the culture. The question is that the next generation, like again what Pradeep is saying, is that if they don't believe in it, then this organization would obviously fail. But the fact that it continues to run, I think it's that because they imbibe the same kind of a culture. The other way is about how they present it in terms of certain kind of aspects of what we used to do, is when we do community work. We, in our generation, so to say, it would be more a touch and feel that you're doing community work where where you're doing something for your, like we are in a place called Gagilapur. So you do work around the Gagilapur environment in terms of the villages that surround it. But today the new generation would look at more of a digital kind of a thing where you can probably expand that reach much better. And that's where the new generation would take some of these values and approach it in a slightly different manner. But the core values remain the same.
Thank you, sir. So in fact, a couple of days back, we were having this organization, the discussion, how to build culture. And probably one of the person in the organization said, cultures are built the way top management appreciates and ridicules things, right? So things that you appreciate, that's what everyone will follow. Things that you ridicule, that's what people will stop doing. So thanks for those insights in terms of what you act, what you do, what you appreciate, what you ridicule. That's what gets watched, and that's how the cultures are built. So thank you, sir. So Tapas bhai, since I know you for 10 years now, I'll probably take a more liberty, and since I also have seen Om Sree working inside out, and I know the second generation is completely into it, the first generation still sits and works. So I would like, and that's the question probably with a lot of legacy business where second generation has come in and has started taking over. And there are a lot of siblings, a lot of brothers, a lot of cousins. How do you manage a setup like that? How the conflicts are avoided? How does things function beautifully the way it was started in first generation, and in second generation you guys are able to continue? So how do you do that?
Good afternoon, everybody, and firstly, I would like to thank Vipinji and Bridgegap for having me here. And I think since morning we have had such an enriching discussion. So I think it was a very good, enriching experience so far. Coming to your point, there are organizations which are having a shelf life. There are organizations which carry on for years and years and years. We have seen organizations of more than 50 years and 100 years. So ultimately the difference is the value system. And when we are trying to bring in the next generation, how do we kind of make them enter into the system is very, very important. You will have to involve them in initially discussions which you are doing, though they might not be directly. So the way we have done, even if they have not been officially brought into the organization, we used to kind of, still sit when the discussions were going on. Even if we pick up few points, those are deeply ingrained in our mind. And the founding fathers or the founders who have those values, those are the values which we kind of, subconsciously keep picking up. And when you actually want to bring them into the system, you are actually conditioning them, and then you're trying to bring them into the system. And then every time, still leading by example. So as far as I am concerned, the biggest thing which I keep telling my people is that, it's always supposed to be led by example. You can keep talking about the values, but then, you will have to follow them yourself in front of your team, in front of your the next generation. And unless you lead by example, it's not going to be really driving that effectively.
Well said. I think in this organizations, people have figured out their domain expertise, and as Tapas bhai rightly said, with that domain expertise, they are driving from the front. And that's what sets example across, and that's what probably is driving efficiency. And that's what we see at Om Shree at play. Rakesh bhai, since you have the youngest brand among the 4 panelists sitting here, it's a 7-year-old brand, right? So I won't say it's legacy which comes in, but for some of the people who are sitting here who are working on young brand, in last 7 years, few of the things that probably you would like to highlight, things that went wrong or things that went right for you, any things that you would like to share?
I would not say wrong, but we have understood about branding a bit late. We are very late in understanding branding. We have started Prime Furniture in the year 2012. If the branding would have happened in that year, brand would have been much better position. And we were very slow in understanding how to make systems and processes. So it took us very lot of time in making systems and processes. But now we are sorted. We can grow very fast.
Probably he's trying to sell Bridgegap. That's how I read him. Thanks for saying that. Yes, the importance of systems and processes. There are some of our clients whom we love the most, right? He's one of that clients. So this importance of putting systems and processes, importance of putting structures. Probably 2012 when the Prime started, they didn't realize, and 2018-19 is when you started putting and things have started moving. So put systems and processes as early as possible.
Vipinji, I would just like to add here, most of the times when we talk about systems and processes, what we are missing, and that is what I've learned over a period of time with my experience and some really challenging times. Unless you align your team, there is no point of succeeding any system. The system cannot succeed unless you are aligning your team. So that is where we will have to understand that you can have 10 processes, 10 systems in place, but if your team is not aligned, then you are not really able to successfully use that system or a process. So that's very important.
Right. Thanks for adding on to that. So Mr. Pradeep, since you said your journey started as a professional, then trading, then starting your own firm, which was primarily a commodity, a product driven to brand of the size of freedom. If you would highlight some of the turning points of turning this product commodity driven product to a brand driven, what are some of those turning points? Probably we all would like to learn that.
Yeah, I mean, this is where the edible oil industry struggles, honestly. That's the question that you asked. If you ask anybody in edible oil industry, everybody wants to build a brand, right? But how to build a brand in edible oil industry is the question. So my background is that I worked for ITC and I was a finance person, and it was in 1991 when things were just changing in India. The liberalization was happening, and India, from a country which was deficient in edible oil, sufficient till that time, was becoming deficient in availability. So imports and OGL, all that started. And the brands were not there at all. There were hardly any brands, edible oil brands. You could only hear of Dalda or Rat or a few brands like that, or Postman. And the percentage of branded sale was minuscule. So ITC, when I joined, I was straight away moved as the business head within a year. So it was like putting somebody at the deep end of the pool. Go and swim. So that was my story. And I realized that people from tobacco background had come into edible oils, and they were trying to replicate what they did in cigarettes in edible oils. So for me, if you ask me, that was my biggest learning, what not to do for an edible oil category. Because the consumers are different. Here is an housewife. There was a guy who was very proud to keep a India King's packet in the hand. Here it is a product where the housewife perhaps 70-80% of the time will not even know what edible oil brand she's buying. She'll just tell, go and buy a sunflower oil. That kind of a thing it is. So I realized that A, this category is large. There is a lot of volume play in it. Two, you have to choose where you belong to. You're not going to be a premium product like a Saffola or like a Sundrop. We want to be a value for money proposition. So we chose the value for money proposition where we want to be in large volumes. So the problem in this category is that you'll see a lot of brands, but the volumes are small. And the margins that they make are small. So the sum total cannot be sufficient to break even. So in the branding category, we realized that distribution, you start with distribution, which is the push part. The pull part has to definitely necessarily come. It's a staple category. It's not a category. So you have to limit your premium that you can charge from a customer. Make sure that your premium is so reasonable that the customer sticks with you, because here the brand loyalty factor is not so high. So choosing the right brand name, getting the product right, getting the packaging right, product differentiation is very limited in our category. After all, it's a sunflower oil, is a sunflower oil. You can only refine a little better than others. You can differentiate through packaging. What attributes of the sunflower oil you can adopt is very important. You should be maybe the first one to adopt. So there the question of market research came into play, where we went to consumers to find out what they are looking for in the edible oil. So we realized that, we should be talking about oil. Limited use means "Kam tel mein yada khana" was the tagline we used, which worked so beautifully, which was thrown back as a feedback from the customers that they are very conscious of edible oil consumption. So here we owned this property that "Kam tel mein yada khana." So all these things worked, but above all, we chose the route of playing large volumes at low margins was the route we used, and that became successful for us.
Right. So probably one thing that I picked up, though you made a lot of relevant points, charging the right premium when you don't have a very differentiated product, right? And lot of our brands try to be saying, you know what, we want to be a luxury brand and let's charge 10 times more than what it cost. So is there a formula to look at what could be the right premium? Because this conversation always happens across boardrooms. How do we price it? What is the right price?
There is. In edible oil, there is. The question that you asked. Firstly, profit is sum total of, the sales minus cost is your profit. So here we say that, okay, I want to charge a certain premium, which is what my competitor can produce at 3 rupees or 4 rupees a liter over that. Then I try and make 3 and 4 rupees a liter lower cost of production because of my size, because of my efficiency. So the sum total of that is 8 rupees a liter on a volume which is 10 times what my competitor can do. So that is where, so the premium, the definition is that I charge a premium only that much which can hardly make the next competitor break even. So that is the kind of premium that, and we have seen over a period of time that a housewife, she is committed to your brand as long as your premium is reasonable. So reasonable premium in edible category will be say 3 or 4 rupees a liter, something which sells at 140, maybe I can sell at 144, 145. She is okay with that. But the moment you go to 150 or beyond, then she is not going to buy you. So we got to make sure 4 rupees a liter, 4 rupees your cost, and then the larger volume, that is the game.
Since a lot of builders are sitting here, please listen. There's a cost principle, how much to charge. The bakery guys, the cake guys. Yeah, okay. So, Mr. Shashidar, since, prior to this, in the morning we were having this conversation around, you introduced SAP a little early. Yeah. So, how does some of these legacy brands have to transition and modernize, and how does this transition gets handled? Because some of the old, someone was, I think Tapas bhai was mentioning, there is a Sharma ji in every organization, without whom also we can't work, with whom also we have to. So how do we handle these transitions while we are trying to modernize?
Yeah, so the point here is that if you really look at it, leadership attitude, I mean, the mindset is the one that can stall any modernization. Like what Tapas was saying about the Sharmajis exist in all organizations. But I think it's a process by which you continuously have to work at it. There is no formula per se. I mean, we introduced SAP in 2007 or 2008. And the first challenge was most of the leadership felt that this is extra work. But today, if I were to make a statement that, okay, let's hang SAP, let's go back to Excel sheets, they're the first ones to jump up and say, no, no, no. It's actually good because they realize that it's actually worked really well. So it's a process by which you have to educate, and you have to show them that whatever you are doing is for the good of the company. And there is no shortcut to this. I mean, and whatever modernization one thinks of, whether it is from a software side or from even technology, it's a process driven by, it's continuous. And you have to keep working at it. And it's extremely frustrating, given the fact that every organization has the Sharmajis in various parts of the organization. But eventually, if there's a determination at the top in trying to push this, and they're able to see the gains are something that are visible in the short, mid, and the long term. I think we've been able to succeed, but it's taken us some time. And there is no quick fix formula for this. And pretty much I would assume that all the other organizations also have similar challenges, especially when you come to something like SAP. It's challenging across the board because of the nature of how the ERP itself is structured. Very large companies have a junior team assigned to it, where the vision is given by the leadership as to how they want it to be configured. But it's like lost in translation. The junior team doesn't implement it in the manner that what the management actually visualizes. Smaller companies don't have that flexibility, and the bosses have to get involved directly. But they don't have time. They're caught between the regular business and implementing it. So most implementations, including our own, has been patchy, but over a period of, what we say re-implementation, we finally come to a product which I would say works reasonably well.
Right. So 2 keywords which I picked from what you said. One is you have to be determined. So at the top, you have to be determined to do it, right? A lot of time we've seen when the management puts in, and then when, no offense to any Sharmajis if they're in the room, if Sharmaji says, sir, ye kaam nahi kar raha hai, this is not working, that is not working, and the management says, theek hai yaar, do whatever you feel like, right? I think that's where a lot of organizations lose the plot, where this determination and patience that, okay, it will happen, and it needs to happen because you believe. I think earlier Mr. Praveen also harped upon saying Dabur Real, for 9-10 years it was in losses. But someone at the top said, it will work, and it finally worked. So, in fact, since I know at Omshi also, Tapas Bhai is trying to modernize, contemporize, probably I would like to pick your brain also in terms of how are you handling this transition of modernizing the way things are happening, bringing in technology. And
what I have learned over a period of time is that it's all about staging it. So, rather than asking the so-called Sharma ji कि आप एक टास्क बना दीजिए, एक लिस्ट बना दीजिए, आप बहुत हमें मॉडर्नाइजेशन करना है तो आप क्या क्या करते हैं, एक लिस्ट बनाइए. 100% श्योर आप वो 4 बार पूछेंगे, 4 बार शर्मा जी यही कहेंगे, सर इतना काम है, ये करना है, वो करना है, कहाँ से मुश्किल हो जाएगा, राइट? तो इट्स ऑल अबाउट स्टेजिंग इट. यू विल हैव टू से दैट मुझे लगता है बहुत काम हो गया है आपको. आई थिंक थोड़ा मुझे लगता है कि कहीं ना कहीं आपके काम को जो है मुझे खुद लेना पड़ेगा या किसी और को. आप एक बार बता तो दीजिए क्या कर रहे हैं. सो द वे you put it across is, so modernization is always a challenge. So as everyone says that, change is always difficult. And especially when you're trying to bring in this change in a family-owned business where you have, and especially for me, the challenge is because I'm the second generation. So I've got the elders and I've got the next generation also. So there are a lot of things the next generation want to bring in, which I know are essential, but at times, probably the timing is not right. Now, how do I convince them, keep them motivated, and at the same time prepare the elder generation so that, at right time we bring this in. So it's all about staging it, as I said. We'll have to constantly keep interacting about these things. The biggest problem about modernization not going through, which I've realized in the last 3-4 years, where I've been trying to bring in a lot of softwares and things like that, you need to constantly keep getting feedbacks and communicate. What are the pain points? You need to keep addressing them. At the top level, if you think that, okay, हमने एक बढ़िया सा ये ERP ले लिया है, चलो आप implement कर दो, किसी implementation वाले को हमने लगा दिया, आप implementation वाले को target दे दिया कि आपको ये करना है, and इतना महंगा software है, इतने जगह पे successful हुआ है, हमारे यहाँ पे भी successful हो जाएगा. It's not going to work.
So probably all the MBA schools needs to have these drama classes where CEOs should also be taught how to act a little, right? Because as Tapas bhai rightly said, sometimes it's also about staging it, where you need to demonstrate and bring out your acting skills to make Sharma ji realize that where he's wrong or where he's right, or probably dive in a little bit of insecurity that comes, zyada ho gaya hai to kam kar dete hain, right? So thanks. So on that, Tapas bhai, the leading question to that is, when the decisions are taken, right, and in a family-run business, when there are various stakeholders with equally important voices, how does the consensus, or what is the process of consensus building that happens?
It's a very, very valid question, especially when you're trying to, take the voices of all the important stakeholders, and you will definitely come up with diverse ideas. At times, you are aware probably that those ideas might not work. But then how to build consensus so that when you are implementing that idea, everyone is equally motivated. So basically, one thing, again, it all drives by the values. So one thing which one has to drive right from the word go, whenever they are trying to bring in any kind of, growth into the organization, is that the organizational importance is the most thing. वो सर्वोपरि है. Organization is the main thing. We are all there because of the organization. ये thought process को, how you kind of, bring into the whole system, वो है इसलिए हम हैं. हमारा अस्तित्व उसके बिना कुछ नहीं है. So that is what is supposed to be driven into the, especially the top management, where the main decision makers are sitting, who are part of the family-owned business and who have diverse views. So at times, their views might not be accepted, but then they will have to understand that it was for the organizational interest.
So till the stakeholders understand that it's not individuals, but it's an organization at stake, and the decision has been taken at organization level. It's not my idea, your idea, but whatever idea, if it's good for the organization, we all fall in line and do it. Rakesh bhai.
There should be no ego issues also in that.
Especially because you and Mitesh bhai work
Yes.
closely, and probably I've seen both of you like twin brothers sitting in every meeting taking joint decisions. How does it work with both of you?
We do respect each other's decision. We have divided our works, like he looks after purchases, finances, I look after sales, marketing. So we respect whatever decisions are taken. If sometimes mistakes happen, the culture is not that you have done this. We never do that.
Right. So roles are divided, people are doing their stuff, jointly gets discussed, but still we respect each other's views and work from that.
Yes, in family businesses, unity and relationship are the most important things. This should be the first priority.
So, Mr. Shashidar, what role does marketing play in ensuring a legacy brand like yours to be relevant going forward also? how do you see the Shakti Hörmann going forward in future? Marketing playing a role?
Yeah, I mean, marketing is the bridge between legacy and innovation. See, if you look at most of what we've done in our initial years, business is all transactional. And you are only looking at the sale part of it. And it's over a period of time that you've realized that business, for it to really grow, it has to become relationship building. And it's no longer transactional. You have to have a story to tell. And that's something that's taken us some time to understand that, of course, I think in this audience, you have to know that I'm the only B2B company here, whereas all my colleagues here on this panel are all B2C. And in the B2B, again, we honestly don't make a product. If somebody asks us, what do you make? We say doors. But in reality, we don't have a product. We don't have an article number. I can't, like Mr. Pradeep here, say I'm making Freedom Oil. I just make a kind of a generic thing called a door. It's customized. So unless a customer tells me what he actually wants, and this is across projects, the product evolves. Coming back to your question about marketing, I think ultimately it's about we need marketing and we understand its importance, which is why the focus now over the last few years has changed more so in trying to, the storytelling. How do we actually connect? I think the previous panel was talking about, I think it was Mr. Praveen, who mentioned this aspect that you have to have some purpose there has to be a purpose for the company. And once you've defined that purpose and which you actually articulate in a vision statement, that vision statement has to be presented to the public at large. And how you sell that is where marketing plays a role. And the medium by which you do it, whether you do it through, like what Mr. Krishnan was saying, is you use Insta, you use whichever channel, that's where marketing really plays an important role in how do you get it across amongst the larger audience and how do you target. One of the advantages of the current kind of platforms that we have is that one is the availability of data and how you can pinpoint a certain specific kind of audience. For example, we wish to present a new product where we need architects. Of the first, let's say, on a first stage, we need to present this product to architects to get their buy-in. How do you present it? In the past, it used to be more challenging. Okay, we used to talk about inside, outside, and magazines like that. But you're never really too sure how much of it actually reaches them because they're there in all their offices, but I'm not too sure how many of them actually read it. But now there are various methods, I would say the new tools that we have in marketing, where you can actually target this specific audience and also get a kind of a feedback. And the transition, I think, from a product company, we have moved and now I'm looking more in terms of selling a story. And I think marketing plays pretty much the most important role in selling that story.
Right. So building onto that, Mr. Pradeep, so one of the common discussions we have when we go to pitch as brand consultant into new companies, they say, Vipin, is brand building all about spending? And how much marketing spends? What should be the budget? How do we go about spending? It should be 20%, 5%, 3%, 100%. Because I've seen the journey of Freedom in the last 15 years. The brand of that size you've been able to create. So if you would like to probably throw some light on that how do we crack this code of when to spend, how much to spend, and what kind of percentage we should look at?
Firstly, you can't build a brand without spending money on marketing.
Please listen to this. He just said, you can't build a brand. He's from Freedom Oil. He's built one of the largest brands. Yeah. You can't build a brand without spending money. Okay.
So that's the belief. And you see, it's like the push and the pull. The pull has to come unless, you see, today it is proliferation of brands which is happening. Hundreds of brands are coming and hitting the markets. So you've got to be relevant to the customer. You've got to be the top of the mind of the customer. So how do you do that? Unless you spend money, you can't do it. And also the way the media has expanded. I mean, the amount of channels which are there on television, the digital, the paper, the print, everything is too much now. I mean, there is too much for the consumer to see. I mean, I'll give you my own example. We started Freedom 2009, and we did reasonably okay in terms of breaking even in the first few years. The third year, we are a commodity company, so we had some wrong positions and we made a loss. So anybody would have said, okay, you know, reduce the spend on the brand. That is the first thing which most entrepreneurs do. But here, I took a decision, you know, called all my partners, we put in more money. We said brand spend is not going to come down. Whatever else you want to do, you do. And this is where we are because of that. So there is no percentage here, Vipin, which you can say in edible oil category because the volumes and the turnovers are too large. Right? For instance, if you ask me today how much I spend as a percentage, I spend only 1.5% of my top line on marketing and advertising. But that 1.5% is by far greater than any other competitor that I'm spending on this brand. So if you go to build a brand, Birla Opus is the recent example I can talk about to people. They have entered the paints category because I worked for a paints company, so I can say that. It's one of the most difficult industry, of most difficult product categories. And they have dared to enter because it is the Birla Group, Aditya Birla Group. And they are spending money hell of a lot. Why? Because if Asian Paints is spending X, and you want to compete with Asian Paints, you better spend 1.5x to be able to compete with Asian Paints. So that is where you got to come from. And another thing I learned in ITC when Mr. Chugh was there, I used to interact with him. ITC was a market leader with 70% market share in tobacco. So he told me that it is as difficult to retain market share as it is to reach there. So to retain market share also, today Freedom, we are the #1 in the states that we operate in. But we believe to retain that position is also as difficult as to reach there. So spending money on marketing and advertising can never be reduced. It has to carry on. And that is what is going to drive the profitability and the growth of the business in the long run.
Right. So two things which I picked up, and in media terms, we call it, one thing is called share of market and other thing is called share of voice. And which, when Mr. Pradeep said, when I spend 1.5%, still it is more than any other competitor in the markets he operates, right? So I'll give you an example of when Fog as a deo brand was being built, and this is built by a guy who has built Move and many other strong brands. He used to spend 50 crore a year for a brand which was launched in year 1. And that was more than Axe, which was a 500 crore, 800 crore brand at that point in time. The overall category in deos was spending around 180 crore. So for a brand which is just launched, he's spending 50 crore, which is almost 28%. Now 0% market share, he's spending 28% of share of voice, because what he believed, in 3 years, if I have to be that 300 crore brand, I need to start spending 50 crore. So sometimes we need to take that view in terms of that share of voice where we want to be. I'll probably jump to now Tapas bhai, because in real estate also, some of the people we meet, 2 BHK, 3 BHK, what is the role of the brand? What is the importance of brand? I have to pick a great location. I will give best of specs, Kohler ka fitting, Kajaria tiles. What is the role of a brand? So, since someone who believes in brand, I have my biases towards him. Since someone who believes in brand so much, Tapas bhai, what do you think? What is a builder? What do you see the importance of marketing and brand for you?
I'll probably go back a little. In fact, like Pradeep ji, even I come with an experience of both working in a corporate and then switching over to the family business. So I've seen both the sides. So when I joined Om Sree way back in 2008, 2009, just after the recession, I was probably given a standalone apartment to construct by my seniors and founders. It took me 2 years to sell. And in the process, I realized that if I sell it just like a product, just as you're trying to tell, 2 BHK, 3 BHK, ये type का नल दे रहे हैं, ये type का tiles दे रहे हैं and all. It's not really working. So then probably we all decided, it was a decision which was taken together, that let's go for a larger community and let us sell a lifestyle. घर तो सबको कहीं पे भी मिल जाएगा. And it's all about brick and mortar. कोई टाइल्स थोड़ी महंगी डालता है, कोई टाइल्स थोड़ी सस्ती डालता है. That's about it. कोई डोर थोड़े महंगे डालता है, कोई सस्ते डालता है. But then at the end of the day, we wanted to bring in that change. And that is when I got in touch with you. And if you would have realized that since then till now, what we have been trying to promote Om Sree is about giving lifestyle, elevating lifestyle. So my thought process is that unless and until you connect emotionally with your consumer in your communication, and unless and until it is really adding any value to that particular consumer, I think you cannot build a brand.
Well said. In fact, I remember the line called, "Is cement mein jaan hai," right? The Ultratech cement. So that emotional connect beyond the brick and mortar kind of helps brands create that sense of purpose, sense of need for the consumers to go for it, and probably pay that premium that Om Sree demands in the market they operate. I'll move to my last questions probably to all of you in terms of the family businesses from one generation to next generation when they are passing. You all talked about value, right? We all work, see the way value is happening. But what value we have to write and give it to these people? They just see and see, okay, yeah, this is I have learned, this is how. How do we, is there a process of doing it, or it is just work around and you will learn and things will happen on its own?
There is no such process of doing it in terms of a textbook process. But driving a culture is a very, very long, drawn, hard task to perform. Because if, let's say in my organization, we are 800 people. Now I got to reach out this value system to 800 people. So it is not written, but like it was mentioned, that you got to demonstrate what you mean. I mean, it's not like Salman Khan ka dialogue, कि मैं भी अगर बोलूँ तो बात मत मानना. You know, it's something like I tell my people that even if I say something to do wrong, sometimes you are in a state of stress, you know, things are not happening. Okay, go and do this the wrong way. I said, even if I say don't follow that. So that is the kind of culture that I'm trying to bring into the organization. Believe me, a simple thing like I'll tell you, a housekeeping, for instance. It has come to my standards after visiting the factory something like 20-25 times, you know. Going into nooks and corners of a factory where I go, I enter the toilets of the workmen, I enter the corners, I go and see the storerooms. So, I mean, to build a thing like housekeeping also is a culture. It has to be driven, it has to be imbibed. And once, believe me, it is, that culture is there, then there's nothing, no falling back, you know. I mean, if you see our country at large, today there's no culture of, you know, cleanliness at all whatsoever, or let's say a driving culture, for instance, driving on the roads, you know. I mean, no matter how much of licenses you've issued which tell you to drive in a particular way, this culture is not there. It is, I mean, you enter Singapore, it is written in the textbook that the culture of Singapore has been built over 50 years, you know, and we expect people entering Singapore to obey and follow that culture. So culture takes decades to build. The value systems also are like that. But the last thing which I want to say here is that value system should be a zero tolerance, you know. For instance, Wipro I know as a company, they have zero tolerance towards bribe or integrity. Anybody not found is totally just sacked. So there's zero tolerance as a lesson to the others to follow that culture is very important.
In fact, since you mentioned Wipro, my colleague Kapil comes from Wipro Consumer Care, and he was telling me the regional manager who visited one of the interior market, he bought a samosa. Samosa guy said, "Sir, bill nahi hai." He said, "Paper mein likh ke do because I have to claim I need a kacha bill also, but I need a bill."
Yeah.
So
That's
that's Wipro Consumer Care, and that's how it is built.
Yeah.
Mr. Shashi, what if the because the next generation is coming in your case, right? Next generation wants to have their own values. I don't agree. You build my values, this is how I want to build. How do you handle that? Your comments.
Such a case. So
Yeah, so that's why I want to know.
just a few years back, we actually articulated what we wanted as the core values. See, you may have been practicing it, but without articulating it in a fashion where every employee knows what exactly does this company stand for. And that's what we have done. We have 5 core values, of which one is honesty, integrity, learning, teamwork. And then it's not that all employees have all 5 values. It's a work in progress, and the idea is to be able to get people who subscribe to those values and people who don't. I mean, like what Pradeep ji was saying, we have zero tolerance to anybody who's not honest. He's sacked. That's it. It doesn't matter what the position he holds. And there is always damage because obviously you're losing a resource who may otherwise be very capable. But as long as you stick to those values, it's work in progress, and finally you get an organization which would reflect those 5 values. In fact, what he was talking about cleanliness, you've not been to a plant recently, but I think Tapas and all have been there. It's that right from the beginning we were clear that we wanted a facility, even it was a very small one. We started in 94, we had about 8,000 or 10,000 square feet. It's a small facility. And we had this very, this Kacha road leading to the factory and stuff like that. Bumpy road. But we kept the facility absolutely spick and span, because where we actually came from, and co-founders and all came from, is that anything to do with steel fabrication has to be messy. That was the norm, that it's accepted. We said it doesn't have to be. And I think because we insisted in it being organized, clean and neat, today and when we had visitors come, both international and domestic, the first thing that used to hit them is, it's very neat and clean, right? And I think that's the kind of a mindset when it's also neat and clean. People also tend to perform in a fashion whereby if you're saying quality is how do you get quality in a product? Even the place has to reflect that, and it has to be clean, neat. It's green, it's clean. You have to maintain your equipment. You have to maintain your machines and your tools in a certain fashion. And then, of course, obviously you need a process also, which is well defined. And I think that's what we've been able to achieve. And coming back to the thing in terms of a value system and the culture that automatically evolves out of that, it's always work in progress. It's that. But as long as we are true to it, I think that's what the organization finally will evolve into. I don't have that challenge in the next generation because they were part of that writing the values itself, articulating those values. So that will still remain a hypothetical question.
Right. So 2 things, write it down and then also believe that it's a work in progress. It will happen, right? It's not done immediately.
And it's also there on everybody's table.
And it has to be there in everyone's table. Yes, Tapas.
What I have practiced about this and what I've observed is it's always top down, and it is very important that we keep talking about it and we keep communicating about it. So that is what has brought in a lot of difference, at least when it comes to the organization which I am running. I constantly talk about these things and relate it with some examples when we are trying to talk to my team. And they should be also doing the same thing to the people down below. It is a chain. And we'll have to keep telling them that, these are things which have to be communicated. So communication and talking about it will make, because see, we have some good flashy boards which we are having in our head office and various other offices. But then it's very important that, keep talking about it. That's what I observe.
Write it down. It has to be everyone's table. It's a work in progress, but also keep repeating it, keep reiterating it. And probably that's why, since in case of Om Shri now there are 3 generations, what happens if Harsh comes and says, Tapas bhai, this value has to change? How do you handle that situation? It's an, again, hypothetical question, but how do you handle, my question is, see, people come with divergent views. How do you handle that in a family business?
We should always keep sharing the historical lessons. See, it takes years and years to, experience is something which we should keep transferring to the next generation. And we should keep giving them examples of what we had in a particular situation and how did we come out of that situation and what were the lessons which we have learned from those situations. See, this communication is very, very important when you are trying to align them with your central core values. At the same time, we'll have to be open when it comes to their suggestions, because as my previous panelists have mentioned that, the world is changing very, very fast. Every 5 years we see that there is, in fact, that's what you have brought out. So we need to be vigilant about the fact that, we will also have to learn. We'll also have to keep, imbibing new things. But at the same time, our core values and the experiences are what, so maybe if he comes and talks to me about, and if something which I'll have to teach him through our experience, I would probably talk about that. I would tell that, अच्छा ये हम करना चाहते हैं, आप कराना चाहते हैं, but देखिए, we had in some time this situation and this is what has saved us. अब आपको लगता है कि क्या हमको ये करना चाहिए? How will we react again अगर फिर से ऐसा situation आ जाएगा तो?
Yeah, so extremely important point. Sometimes just because I'm the eldest of the brother, that doesn't mean I don't have to explain to my younger brother. And that's what probably I'm picking from Tapas bhai, that it's extremely important to communicate the reasons why these values are and why we have come to articulating and putting that, rather than just saying, these are the values, follow it, right? So thanks for sharing that. Rakesh bhai, last point from you in terms of, see, since both of you run the show, right? How are you driving this culture in your employees? What's happening there? How do you ensure that they follow what you want as an organization culture? The practices that you have, the integrity, honesty, transparency. You've come with Bontrue, means you've taken to the next level of Bontrue honest price. You want to be an honest brand. How do you ensure that your employees follow this?
We have regular training programs for this. We teach every month. We get them all together. We do meets. We do exchange our thoughts. We do have a trainer. So this is how we communicate our thought process, what we are thinking. And depending on the values, we take decision. And we train them a lot on the values. Respect is a value. So we regularly train them. Respect each other. Let it be your, if it is a helper staff also, this is a value which is non-negotiable. You have to follow this.
So Bontrue has this beautiful system of monthly, everyone coming together at one place, and a lot of conversations happen there. So that's what he was mentioning. So that is a place where reiteration, iteration of what values talked about. So thank you panelists for doing this. We are open to probably one or two questions if anyone has.
Hi, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
I actually have 2 questions. First one is to Mr. Shashidar Reddy. So I represent Sree Automotives. We are authorized channel partners for Safsol Lubricants, which is an industrial lubricant brand. Now, it's our responsibility to build Safsol as a brand in the entire Telangana market because we are the distributors. At the same time, there are a lot of constraints in order for us to do so. I'm sure you also have distributors in other markets who are in similar situations. So how would you advise us to proceed about this?
Which product is this? Just repeat that.
What product?
Industrial lubricants.
Industrial lubricants. The first thing I would suggest is to hire this guy on my right side. Okay.
Again, for us, that's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
constraint because we do not manage the brand. I cannot make decisions
I
for
do
Sasol.
understand. I was just joking. And just,
Sorry.
Yeah. So we do have distributors. We don't have distributors. Like I said, we don't make a product. So maybe I'm not the right guy to answer this question. Maybe Pradeep ji is better positioned to answer it because we have only dealer partners. And like I mentioned before, we make a bespoke product. We don't have, like at least you have a product which is articulated, it has a certain kind of a application. And and then you can go about positioning it. I'm not an expert on lubricants and nor do we have a distribution chain in the manner that you're asking. So maybe some of the other panelists could possibly answer that better.
It's a different channel of distribution what lubricants I assume will have compared to a normal distributor model which FMCG product has. I think you're mostly through petrol pumps and all your outlet, right?
No, sir. Ours is a similar distribution model where we directly go to industries, factories and supply to them directly.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
So, see, some of the franchisee brand that we work with, right, where people are not owning their brand, but they get these exclusive territories to market the product. So, for example, there's a brand which says, you know what, now you are the distributor exclusive for Telangana. Now, there are certain, in terms of, so you need to get, if you want to invest in brand, firstly, you need to get into long-term agreement. Saying, you know what, if I'm going to invest in brand, this 10 years, I need to have benefit. Because if it's short-term, then there is no point that you are going to invest in brand. Because at the end of the day, if 6 months down the line, they terminate your contract and they give it to someone else gets benefited. So if you're looking to work on someone else's brand, which you don't have control in terms of product or supply chain at the back end, it's extremely, extremely important that you get into contracting, which is long-term contracting. And probably that's one way where you can have a role in terms of benefit that you reap out of long-term brand building in that market. Beyond that, probably we can discuss it separately as well. How to go about this building someone else's. The last question, yeah.
I'd like to thank the panelists for quite an insightful session. I have two short questions. First is, to what extent a family constitution helps in the continuity of the business? Second question, what happens if one of the family members doesn't want to be part of the operations? Thank you.
Any of you can take it. I don't have any family in my business who's intruding in. So.
No, what was the first question was
Family
that?
constitution.
What is the role of a family constitution?
See, family, there is one person, like, let's say, who starts a business. It is natural that if you're doing well and the business is doing well, the others would like to come and join. And also the person who started the business would want the other family members also to come and join the business. But my background is such that I do not value the family coming in the business and spoiling the business. The person has to be right for the right job, Because if the interest is not there in that particular business, then it is not just because you're a family member coming and joining the business, It's very, very important. So the level of interest, the grasp has to be there, ability has to be there to be able to handle. Otherwise, you can't spoil your business for the sake of a family member,
So they can remain out.
No, actually, one of the, we don't have a family constitution, but the GMR group was one of the Hyderabad-based, not Hyderabad, now they're Delhi-based, which came up with their own family constitution. It's supposed to be a very detailed thing, where the clear-cut roles and responsibility of each family member is defined in detail. And it's supposedly a very exhaustive document where they actually manage the business, but they are not in part of any operational part of their business. They have only professional managers. But you could have it. Obviously they have taken advice from a bunch of people to draft it. But if there is going to be a family constitution, it's obvious that the members who are going to be a part of that constitution, everybody has to agree on that basic membership. So if there's somebody who doesn't wish to be a part of it, then it's fine. I mean, there is no challenge there.
Okay. Thank you all. Thank you all the panelists for doing this for us. And